All right, welcome everyone back to Spiritual Selfish channel. Today is a very exciting video because I'm joined by the beautiful Tiffany Tin. And those of you, well, obviously, many of you know Tiffany because I have been referring many of my clients to Tiffany and sharing her work with my audience as well. But those of you who do not know Tiffany, she's actually been my very first mentor when it comes to psychic ability. So she really helped me to understand the energetics, how to protect myself, and have helped me to lay down the strong foundations in facilitation of one-on-one healing sessions. So huge thank you to Tiffany, the super mom, legendary teacher. But for the official introduction, those of you who do not know Tiffany, basically Tiffany is a master teacher, a healer who works with light body activations, Akashic Records Integration, channeling high frequency spirit guides, and much more to support you guys in your spiritual journey to greater fulfillment and abundance. So Tiffany, I'm so excited to welcome you here and yeah, share your story and your beautiful work. I think we lost Tiffany for a bit there. All right. And we're back. So, Tiffany, welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm very excited to co-create and contribute to Christina's audience as well. So I've watched her grown in the last few years and very, very proud of her. So thank you for inviting me here. We're gonna have lots of fun talking about channeling.
Yeah, this is amazing. And I'm sorry if you can hear the noise. Suddenly, my neighbor decided to drill the wall.
It's always during the interviews,
Yeah,
they say.
exactly. In the perfect timing, always. But yeah, Tiffany, I would love to hear more. Why channeling? Why working with the spirit guides? And how did you even got into this work?
I think with like a lot of you, I also started out with healing myself first. So channeling is kind of like a thing that I never really knew that it exists until I started learning about energy healing. So I started to learn about energy healing called Reiki by learning how to heal myself from depression, anxiety, and like suicidal thoughts, and I find that conventional medicine took me to a certain level and I hit a glass ceiling. So I was searching for more. And then one day I was just scrolling on Facebook and I saw this ad for Reiki. Didn't know what it was, but I'm like, oh, I need to take this. I don't even know what this is. And then I show up and right when the teacher started explaining how everything is energy, vibration, and frequency, I'm like, oh, she's talking my language. She understands what I'm talking about, and everything just opened up. I first started out with just understanding, us being empath, being sensitive to energy, other people's emotions, to slowly advancing and building up my skills until I can channel guides or Akashic records. So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, like now if if I read your title, it sounds super advanced, How long you've been doing this work for?
This will be my number almost 6 or 7. I'm completing number 6, almost 7. So quite a few years.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. And um Tiffany, those of you guys who do not know, with we started working with Tiffany. I began with my one-on-one healing session, so I came her to her as a client. So she helped me massively with some energy work, but then I also did her channel your spirit guides course, light language program. So it's truly been so transformational and incredibly helpful on my spiritual and psychic journey. Um, and many clients of mine and people who follow me, they get these questions like, oh, where do I start? How do I channel? And so on and so forth. So when it comes to, when people start to open up, their psychic abilities start to open up, what are the first things that you will, now 7 years looking back, what are the first things you would suggest people to pay attention to?
I always say there's a lot of layers to it, but definitely one thing which you talk about a lot is shadow work. So sometimes when we open our abilities and channeling, if we're not aware of our shadows, it can skew the way that we channel. It might be our ego interfering or our mind interfering. So it's important to do shadow work to heal those trauma so that we don't get ungrounded. When you know your mind, when you know yourself, then it's easier to discern, is the information coming in my ego or is it actual divine channeling? So there's a different frequency. So the shadow work number one must do. Number two is protection. So I wish I knew more about protection when I first started, because there was quite a few times, try and error. I was like, oh my God. I was leading workshops without any energetic protection, and I would get psychic attack afterwards. And I couldn't figure out why until I realized that it is because I didn't do any protection when I'm doing energy work with a big group of people. It's something that I have to do. And as a facilitator, I should be responsible to also teach the participant how to protect themselves so that they feel safe in the space. So I feel number two, protection is so important. And number three is having a mentor. I know a lot of people like to be independent, sovereign, which to a certain degree, yes, but there's a lot of stuff that you might not know that a mentor know can help you. A lot of people also, even when they have a mentor, they're not ready. They start to go into the ego space because they didn't do their shadow work. So having a mentor that understand channeling, understand trauma and shadow work is going to help you create a safer, more grounded, more protective space for channeling. So yeah, looking back, I would say these are my top three things. The other things, a lot of people talk about love and light, crystal, but I think these are the more important core of it about channeling, how to get started. So those are the three things I would like to share.
Yeah, amazing, Tiffany. This is so, so good because I really love the aspect when you said, it can, like the shadow work, if you don't do it, it can skew the way you channel because sometimes your ego can get in the way. And for me, I really had to sit down with my ego, specifically my mind. Actually, I had, when I will try to channel, I think it came up during one of our dragon light language activation sessions, and I was trying to connect, but my mind was giving me, oh, look at this, I have the answer. And then I actually had to sit down with my ego, my mind, and calm it down, that like, hey, it's okay, you're not worse than my intuition, because my mind actually was really afraid that I'm making my heart better than my mind, right? So ego was really fighting. So it's, and all of us will have different aspects through which we need to work, but if we don't make this connection with ourselves, as you said, like a lot of information can get in their way when we try to channel, when we try to connect to higher realms. And yeah, I think shadow work is such an under like it's understatement. Like it's not so appreciated as oh, light codes and activations, and people think that it's only about ascending, when it's actually no, it's clearing the vessel so that your higher consciousness actually can come and ground, because we're always connected, right?
Yes, yeah. And I've seen a lot of people sometimes when they don't do that, they like I see channelers that haven't done shadow work, they channel for others and they build the spiritual ego off the people. So I was like, no, I don't think that's a good way to do it. And we should be grounded and practical, and spirituality should help us, not to make us more detached to reality. So Yeah, so definitely we are no bypassing here. We are all about shadow work plus the light. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about you. Always in your sessions, you're like, stay humble, guys, stay humble. So that's amazing. And yeah, if we are bringing it back to our like light language healing sessions, our program, and often people come to me wanting me to activate light language within them, or how do I start? And I'm like, I don't activate people, right? And I think it's such a important thing to understand. One, you can channel light language and help people with healing, but then it's completely different thing to activate somebody, to connect with the lineages of different races of light languages and so on. So I would love for you to share a little bit more. What is light language for you? And, can everyone that do it if, guided appropriately, or is it only specific souls who can access light language?
oh, yeah, those are good questions, Christina. And I think that it's important to know thyself. Like, I feel like light language itself is helping us heal a lot of the throat chakra blockage that we have. Oh, it works on the whole system, but really it's about this throat. The system, our programming has, I really feel like, blocked our throat a lot in many ways. And sometimes even we need to go beyond language itself. So I feel that light language really, it's limitless. It go beyond these language of Spanish, English, or Chinese, but it really come back into the essence of the soul. It's a language of the soul. So given said that each person's soul is different, because each soul has different Akashic records, they have been to different realms. So I noticed that with some souls, with the different lineage I teach, some souls will gravitate more towards one, or they'll be better at one or two, and then they slowly learn the other lineage, and they all kind of have their preferences and talents in each lineage that everyone can learn from each lineage. So for example, you can learn from the angels, you can learn from the masters of light or dragons or stargates and so forth. But depending on the soul, and when I look at the soul, I look at it like a hologram. So some people look at Akashic record in a very linear way, like, oh, you start here and then here, here, here. But the way I look at it is more like a 4D hologram. And I see channeling with the higher self, okay, this soul, what resonance or vibration is most active right now? So if we were to activate, let's say, a certain person's light language, I ask the higher self and see, show me like what are the major percentages that in their etheric DNA it's ready to receive that activation. So sometimes I get angels, angelic frequency, sometimes galactic frequency. It depends on the soul, but you can read into your Akash to see, okay, what it's like a light bulb when it turn on. The wires are there, it's not on. So you need to read into the wires and see, okay, what is ready to receive? And the wires are like our DNA. So we get to see how we can best activate a soul. And the other way is to work with other channelers like yourself that already activated, which already had the light bulb turn on. So when you're around those people's frequency, your light bulbs start to turn on as well naturally. So that's another way as well. So that's why I say working with a mentor, working with someone that already have the skill is going to be very helpful in helping you activate your own skills. So.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is so important. And people, sometimes like, oh, I'm gonna do it myself, spiritual ego, or maybe people are afraid of asking help and receiving help, right? But just being around those people who already have what you want is so incredibly helpful, because unconsciously you're going to start receiving the codes from that human, right? And I remember in life language program at the beginning for myself, because I started your program, my life language came to me first, and then I was like, all right, what do I do with it? Right? So that's why I joined the program. But I was so confused when we would go through like Lemurian light language or dragon or and so on. And I was like, how do I know which language I speak? Because it was just coming to me first, right? And then after, on my journey, I really understood that, for example, myself, I'm such a soul that if I think about certain lineage, I can actually connect and channel that frequency. So sometimes people are just like one and two or three. For me personally, if I tune in, I can channel pretty much everyone, not everyone, but that's my experience. I've been able to channel around 12 or 13 languages. But if I look now at my healing sessions that I do, when I'm really in the state, it's only specific words and specific energy that comes through. And to be honest, I don't know which specifically lineage it is. It just feels like a mixture of different phrases. But that's why I feel it's important to address it, that people understand it's not linear, right? There's so I remember you said the line, my Lemurian language will be different from your Lemurian language. And it hit me like, oh yeah, it's not about the the words, the letters, it's the frequency you hold, right?
Oh, that's a really good point. Yes, exactly. Because another example is to look at it like, let's say we all are in our next life, we are in Pleiades. We're like, okay, well, what was the language of Earth sound like? I'm gonna be speaking English, and someone's gonna speak Spanish, but we're all Earth Earth people. So it's same thing with Lemuria. It was such a long era, such a vast continent that the dialect is gonna be different. So, point of your language, sometimes we call soul light language, is your soul. Basically, your soul is tuning into a frequency to talk to your client and be like, well, the linear language is not going through, so we're going to go into a multitude of soul language to speak directly to your soul and your subconscious. So I find that like you said, it's a mixture of everything, and it just ties back into why it's so important for practitioner to do shadow work for that reason. Because if we don't make sure we are pure or as pure as we can be, then we can like get sidetracked. And I see that in a very small percentage of people, they get sidetracked. So yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. And as we already started talking about the codes, right? I would love to hear, because I know you're big on this one. Haven't seen many people actually online to teach on this. So light codes, right? What is it, and how can those help us in evolutionary, as as humans, as consciousness, and so on?
Yes, I love light codes. So light codes are like its name, light type of codes for our etheric DNA. So in quantum physics, physics realm, they already explain how light can carry information. Light itself in certain experiment have been shown to be able to replicate DNA. It can carry information. And so the light codes in itself is quantum information that's carried quantum spiritually to help activate our etheric DNA or a certain layer of our consciousness or our aura, depending on what you want to use it for. Light codes I find also is very helpful when you need something that's like quick support. Shadow work is great, but it takes a long time, it's many layers, and sometimes we need a little boost. It's like that extra vitamin D boost or extra calcium. So light codes are created by the higher realm to give us that boost, especially now we're in ascension time. Things are happening faster, and we're really trying to ascend as a group, as a collective. So we look at light codes also seasonal as well. There's some codes that are there all the time that you can access, but during certain portal opening, some codes are more powerful or more in season than others. So, for example, you see maybe a few channelers that you guys follow, and they will all talk about dragons all of a sudden. And then a few months later, they all talk about Jesus or all talk about Mary Magdalene. Is that we linked in to those portal and we're bringing those codes in. So, there's a lot of properties when it comes to light codes. Crystalline light codes do with DNA. It can help with your aura. Pearlescent can help with the womb, your skin, and so forth. So different light codes have different properties, and they're very fun to work with. And I learn humbly through my clients and students as well. So working with them, they also in the moment of channeling, I get to learn a lot of information as well. So yeah, it's a beautiful journey to work with light codes.
Yeah, it sounds like it's basically a technology that was created to assist humanity with ascension and essentially activating that dormant DNA that we
Mhm.
hold, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and basically, how do you transmit it through light language, or is it happening just energetically?
Ooh, I love these questions. You're so good at this. Yes, through light language is one way. Another way is through an energetic attunement or activation. So it's more energetically based. You link straight up to source, your higher self, to download those codes or the master of light that you follow, maybe Mary Magdalene or so forth. Um, some people can also do a self activation. A lot of indigenous people, they do that. They already have the knowledge within themselves to activate their own DNA. Sometimes it happens spontaneously, maybe due to your higher self or a solar flare happen and it activate that part of you. So there's different ways to activate it, but mostly the way I like it is like language, like you, and energetically. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it also can be part of soul contract that at certain times, certain activation happens for you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, amazing. One of the questions that I have is because because you work with so many clients in Starseeds, what maybe are some of the rare races, extraterrestrials that you come across, or maybe soul missions that are truly standing out, because obviously we are all here to raise the collective consciousness, but maybe there's something really like boom, it's really interesting why the soul is here.
Mm. There's a lot I can go into, but I think it's so every light worker has their purpose and everything, but I find that lately, just lately, the very interesting I'm noticing is a lot of us are beginning to activate our ability to work with time. So, timelines, breaking out of time loops, or understanding how to bend time. So, I noticed that I think this new wave of solar flares that are coming in is helping us activate that to work with time. For example, when like we were depressed or when we're in a negative state, time is so much slower, right? Like, oh my God, it's so long this day. But when it's high vibration, everything aligns. It goes so much faster and so much easier. So I feel like a lot of light workers at this time is activating their ability to work with time and really understanding it a little deeper. So with dragons, for example, the timekeepers or the guardians or the gatekeepers might start working with people to work with time to heal the Akashic records of Earth. So there's like the organic Akash, which supposedly is supposed to be lighter, but then we are in like this matrix, these temporal time bubble because of the service to self. It's a long story, but service to self beings, we've created a lot of these timelines, time bubbles that are branching out. So, for example, if someone is finding themselves stuck in like a pattern, right, a lot of times have to do with a past life, but that past life, when I tune into it, it's like this is not like the real Akash. This is like the temporal inorganic Akash. So I'll give you an example. One of the client I tuned into one time, oops, sorry, when I tuned into our show a past life in Egypt, but it didn't feel like the natural Egypt that I know it to be. It felt like a little, the frequency was a little weird and I couldn't understand it. I was like, is this a curse or what is it? It was afterwards that I understood it. that it was like a false Akash or inorganic Akash. Different channelers have different names for it. And so I feel that a lot of times now we're being activated how to work with time in order to release these lower Akashic memories so that we can return fully into the organic Akash. So I feel like that's really, really interesting. This means that a lot of the galactic memories are activating Octurians, Pleiadians, Cygnans, Sirians, Orions, Lyrans, all of them are Alpha Centaurians as well. There's so many, but they're all activating no part of themselves that relearn how to work with time. So another example before I finish is clear cognizant people. So clear cognizant people always doubt themselves. They're like, oh, I don't know how I'm getting these images. When clear cognizant people start to learn how to bend time, then they will get the messages a lot clearer. Because clear cognizant get a message in 1 second, and in the 1 second, it's like a stack of messages that's downloaded. And they're like, I don't get anything, but they did. But once they learn how to morph time into a slower state, then all of these puzzles are going to expand. It's like a zip file on your computer. Then they start to understand the messages themselves. So this is the interesting things I'm noticing now. But sorry for the ramble.
No, thank you so much. I think it's amazing everything that you're sharing. Just wow about the inorganic Akash. I've heard that there's a like inorganic karma that can be attached in order for soul to learn a lesson when that soul actually didn't had that karma. But yeah, about Akashic, I've never heard it. So it's amazing that to hear that, we have more people being activated to clear that up. And about the claircognizance, one of my clear abilities is claircognizance. And that's why I feel a lot of my teenage years, I just knew stuff for no reason, right? And I never thought that it's psychic abilities because I just know, well, everyone is just like this, right? But then exactly like there will be like rushes of energies and downloads sometimes that I'm like literally shaking because it's kind of going through the energy circuit through my body, and I definitely need to sit down to write things or voice note to myself because otherwise it's gonna go away. So in those moments it definitely feels like I don't have time, that it's kind of gonna run away, right? That the realization. So it's definitely interesting, the ability to slow down and kind of looking at it vertically, linearly, and kind of turning it and slowing it down, right? So I loved what you did there with hands. It's a great, visualization. One last quick question before we run out of time is I have about men, right? Obviously, most people who have been waking up first are women, right? Because we're more connected with our hearts, and unfortunately, men have been conditioned to shut down their hearts, to man up, put their walls up. So a lot of my clients now actually are men who are connecting with their feminine side of themselves. Their intuition is coming online and so on. However, many of them don't trust it. They doubt it because essentially they don't trust the feminine. So would you have any tips or advice how men could trust more their intuition, and when they can understand that this is their intuition versus their mind?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Christine. So in short, I think part of it is inner child work or the shadow work of healing. I've noticed too is mother wounds. There's usually a lot of blockages surrounding their mothers. So there needs to be some shadow work that help mend the wounds that were received in their childhood. So that's first step. Second step is they have to be more in touch with the archetypes. So the warrior, the king, the especially in this case, the wizard, right? The lover. So these archetypes within themselves will help them reclaim these parts of themselves. And my husband, he likes this book. It's called The Way of the Wizard by Deepak Chopra. And so that book, it really helped him in a very logical way understand how to trust his intuition. And he grew up with a lot of women as well, a lot of sisters and cousins, all female, mostly female. So that book really helped him, just watching him as a male develop. And also, it's important for, I guess I'm just talking more in like energy instead of genders and identification. If you have more male energy within you, it's important to allow yourself to become that guardian. I feel that a lot of times male have the blockages of becoming too much of a warrior. But what it really is that divine masculinity is being that guardian, that protector, uh, to feel empowered in that yang energy. So whether it is, I know, having a pet or being a mentor to younger kids, just building and nurturing that guardian, that wizard, that mentor within themselves, gonna help them trust the intuition because they're gonna see the practical result. And the male brain is like that. They need to see results and logic and steps, right? So when they see, wow, this person I'm mentoring is really, growing a lot, I can see the results, and I feel like it helps them feel more empowered as well. So the healing, the empowering goes hand in hand.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Tiffany. I really love that aspect about being the guardian because yeah, so many men are pressured to be the warrior, let's do it, go, 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 go. But divine masculinity can be like, no, presence. Nor you can be nurturing man and hold, others, and be this divine protector. And that's also is infused with that feminine side of you, right? So this is amazing. Thank you for sharing those golden nuggets.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me here today. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, and Tiffany, on the last words, where other people can learn more about you, what are the best ways of working with you?
Oh, thank you for asking. You guys can find me on my website, highpriestessascension.com. A lot of different courses, like codes, like language, and other courses as well. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And all of those links, you guys, you'll find in the description. Highly recommend checking out Tiffany's YouTube channel, of course.
Thank
Of
you.
course, YouTube channel. And yeah, if you're looking for the first steps, I highly recommend the Channeling Divine Messages with the Spirit Guides course, which lays down strong foundation of energy protection, and includes a lot of energetical practices. So you'll find that link to that course as well. So thank you, Tiffany, again so much for sharing your wisdom, for coming on and sharing your amazing energy with my audience. I really appreciate you and everything that you do.
Thank you, Kristina.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Bye.